Hello, football fans. Hello, AAF fans. And let's talk about what happened in week 6 of the AAF. We'll talk about news and my impressions after 6 weeks of the AAF. We'll start with the first game. Memphis and Salt Lake at Salt Lake City. I called this game right. I thought Salt Lake City would win the game because they were the home team. That's pretty much what happened. The biggest play of the game might have been at the first play of the game. Defensive player of the week, Carter Schultz, who's been a beast all year for this team. Sacks Zach Mettenberg, and Zach Mettenberg was out the rest of the game with a bad ankle, and it looks like he's going to be out for quite a while now. Brandon Silvers is going to come in and play this week for the injured Mettenberg. And Brandon Silvers, who from the old Troy Trojans quarterback, did pretty good. He completed 62% of his passes, had a touchdown pass, and due for 242 yards. It looked actually real good. What it definitely was his first pro game. Now again, the problem for Memphis was their running game only had 49 yards altogether for the game. Rich Horn for the Express had 129 yards receiving. He was the high. Williams had 70. I mean, the passing game was there, but the no running game for Memphis, and the Singletary defense was invisible the whole game. Very, very disappointing from a Mike Singletary defense, and on a team they could have beaten. Josh Woodrum had 65% of his passes complete, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 243 yards passing, 24 of 37. Joe Bongyong had 60 yards rushing. He was the high rusher. Nick Truesdale, the tight end, was the high receiver with 67 yards. Demone Pearson-L, one of my favorite receivers in the league, had 38 yards on 5 catches, but it was the defense that made a big difference for Salt Lake. Again, Carter Schultz, defensive player of the week, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, including the big one on Zach Mettenberg. And Salt Lake wins this game 22-9. Upcoming next for Salt Lake, they have to go on the road to play San Antonio against the Commanders, which is going to be a really, really tough game for them. And Memphis is going to be home against the Birmingham Iron. Both though, actually, the Birmingham-Memphis game will be a rematch of Week 1 when Birmingham shut out Memphis. So we'll see how that game goes. And we'll talk about the second game here, the upset of the week. I didn't think Arizona. I missed this game totally. As far as my prediction, I had Orlando winning easily. I said last week Arizona had the worst defense in the league. I really thought that. They hadn't stopped anybody, let alone stop the Orlando offense. And this game actually turned out to be a defensive battle, which is something I never thought I would happen in this game. But this is exactly what happened. Of course, Arizona pulled off the upset 22-17 in this game. Gary Gilbert looked human. 23 of 48, 268 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and 1 interception. His first of the year. Didn't even complete 40% of his passes. They did have over 100 yards rushing, 111 altogether. The Ernest Johnson had 43 yards. Devion Smith had 39. Gilbert had 15. Those are the high. Jillian Marshall had 98 yards receiving. Charles Johnson only had 28, so they did a good job shutting him down. Probably their most explosive receiver. On the defensive side, Northrop was the beast. 9 tackles for the game. They never sacked John Wolford once in the whole game, which I thought they would, because they that Orlando defense, I thought was coming to its own and looking pretty good. Now, as for John Wolford, he had a real good game. 60% of his passes complete, 60-27, 162 yards, 1 touchdown pass. They ran the ball real well, 79 yards offense, led by Tim Cook, 71 yards. Presley had 57. And the Arizona offense looked like the team they looked like in week 1 when all the odds makers predicted them to win the whole thing this year. They looked like that team. Since week 1 up until last week, they have gotten worse and worse and worse. That wasn't the case. Rasheed Ross, 5 catches for 51 yards, but the high receiver was Mullaney with 6 catches for 73 yards. Presley had a touchdown on the ground game. For the defense, it was a team effort. You can't really say there was a dominant player. They did sack Gilbert twice. Yates had 1. Kevin Burnett had another. This was an overall team effort here. Now there is one thing about this game. I'm gonna call Steve Spurrier for acting like Mike Martz. You're down 14-9 in the third quarter. You get down to the 2-yard line. You shouldn't go for a 4th and 2 when you know your offense is struggling and Arizona is doing pretty good against your offense. Take the points, take the field goal. Your kicker Elliott Fry has been perfect the whole year. Didn't even attempt a field goal, I think, in this game. And those turned out to be a very big field goal. They lost by 5, and towards the end of the game, when they had to spike the ball and got called for offsides and the 5-second runoff, game over. Now, if they had been able to take their time, they might have gotten one play and gotten Elliott Fry in position for a game-winning field goal. And what was a very good game and a very, very crazy ending. And, of course, on the next drive, Steve Spurrier also went for a 4th down, did not convert. The Arizona defense stopped him, so it was like Steve Spurrier did not respect this Arizona defense, and I didn't either. But when that defense is shutting your offense down and it has control of it, you should probably take the points. You should probably respect them a little bit more, and it cost them their first loss of the season. Now, Orlando was still 4-1. Arizona improves to 3-3. This week, Orlando is Atlanta on the TNT Saturday afternoon game. Good job by TNT picking that game up. And Arizona is going to be home against a big game against a division rival, the San Diego Fleet. So, again, we're going to have some good games this week. Next game, this next game was terrible. I called San Antonio win this game. I thought it would be a heck of a lot closer, but this was... Welcome to the real world, Aaron Murray. He had a rough game, and he did complete 73% of his passes, 30 of 41 for 215 yards, but it was short passes. Did not give him the deep ball whatsoever. 1 touchdown pass and 3 bad interceptions. And the one thing you've learned against this San Antonio defense, you give them turnovers, they capitalize, they score. This was a blowout, people. 37-6 in favor of San Antonio. San Antonio, of course, improves to 4-2. Atlanta comes back down to earth. They're 2-4, and of course, San Antonio finally comes home this week. Finally, after a 4-game road trip, going 3-1, they'll play Salt Lake, and Atlanta has a daunting task of playing Orlando. Let's see. They ain't have much of a running game. You don't run really good on this San Antonio team. You can't pass. Teams have been passing on this San Antonio defense all year. But the two things that San Antonio do is rush the quarterback real good and stop the run. Well, you had 2 sacks on Aaron Murray. They forced him to have 3 turnovers. It was a bad day for Atlanta all around. They looked like the team we saw the first 3 weeks of the season. Logan Woodside again, the game manager he is, 17-23, 164 yards, 2 touchdown passes, no picks. He played mistake-free ball, 74% completion percentage is unreal. Kenny Morrow, disappointing, 9 attempts, only 35 yards. Now they run the ball real good, but they didn't have to. When you get 3 turnovers and turn them into points, you pretty much make the game easy for you. So we're not going to spend much time on this game at all. This is a boring game. Like I said, this is one of only 3 blowouts we've had this year in the AAF. And we'll finally talk about the last game of the week. The game of the week, Birmingham 32, San Diego 29. I got this game wrong also. I didn't think Birmingham, who has had 0 offense all year, 0 offensive identity, would be able to score against this team, and they ended up getting 32 points. The first time they scored over 30 points this year. In fact, this is the first time I think they scored over 20 since week 1. They've been a defensive team. Mike Bercovici for San Diego completed 50% of his passes for 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 big interceptions. This is the Bercovici. The 2 sets of Bercovici we've seen, the mistake prone, the one that could do real good. The one we saw, he played a good game, but those 2 big interceptions cost him. San Diego, terrible job running the football, 67 yards after we saw Birmingham give up back-to-back 100-yard performances to San Antonio and Orlando. Dantes Ford was a beast again, only 3 receptions, but had 182 yards receiving, averaging 60 yards a catch. Jerron Gardner had 2 out of the back for 33 yards. The ball spread out pretty good. 10 people caught passes, so Bercovici did a good job spraying the ball. And they did get to Luis Perez 3 times for 3 sacks. But to my surprise, Luis Perez started this game. I thought Kevin Price would start off his good game last week, but he had his best game as far as yards thrown. 359 yards passed, 27 for 49, 359 yards passing. 3 big touchdown passes. His first of the year, he got 3 in one game, but he had 2 big interceptions, just like Bercovici. So this game had a bit of everything for you. Trent Richardson had 46 yards rushing. Again, he's the goal line beast. They had 90 yards rushing altogether. LaDainian Washington, 4 receptions, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the offensive player of the week for the AAF. And of course, Nick Novak hits 2 field goals and keeps the game winner in the end. And Birmingham improves to 4-2. San Diego goes to 3-3. In a very, very exciting game. Now, San Diego is going to be at Arizona this week on the Sunday afternoon game. They're both 3-3. And Birmingham will play the Sunday night game against Memphis at the Liberty Bowl. So that is the results of this week's AAF game. Now we'll talk about my impressions of the league after week 6. I was pissed off we didn't get an overtime game. I was hoping Nick Novak would miss that field goal at the end to see overtime. We didn't. I want to see these overtime rules so badly in effect. We've not gotten to see that yet. That's the only rule change we have not seen. We've got close to having a couple, but no cigar so far. Hopefully we'll have one this week. My top 8 teams in order, I'm still putting Orlando number 1, San Antonio number 2. I think Birmingham moves back up to number 3. I'm still going to keep San Diego at 4, Arizona at 5, Salt Lake at 6, Atlanta at 7, and Memphis 8. Now, of course, the big news coming out of the week was Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, signed a contract with the AAF. By rules, San Antonio had first crack at him. They decided to pass him on waivers. I thought they would do it since he's a Texas boy and playing in San Antonio with the big crowds. But I guess Dallin Moose Johnson, the GM, says, why mess with chemistry? Logan Woodside's doing a good job. We'll pass on him. So the team with the worst record gets crack at him next. That was Memphis, and they took him with the injury to Zach Mettenberg, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for. But Brandon Silvers is going to be the starter, but Michael Singletary says Johnny Football will see some action this week. So this should be fun. That will be the Sunday night game on the NFL Network at 8 o'clock p.m. Of course, the other big news is the AAF Championship game has been moved. They have moved it from Las Vegas, Nevada to Dallas, Texas, where the Dallas Cowboys play, AT&T Stadium. So that is a big upgrade as far as venue goes. I'm not sure if people will be more excited to go to Dallas or to Vegas, but I think it's a more centralized location for all the teams to travel to. I still rather see the higher seed get this game, where revenue is real big, important. At least have the higher team get to have a good crowd for that game. Just my thoughts. Once the league gets good, then go to a neutral site. What other news did we have this week? I think that was the two biggest news. That Johnny Manziel is now at Memphis. The site has been moved to Dallas, Texas. That'll be the other thing. CBS, the main network, has picked up 3 games. They are going to be broadcasting Memphis at San Antonio in Week 9 on the main network. They will cover one of the semifinal games, the Sunday afternoon game at 12 p.m. on CBS. And now they've also added the championship game on CBS Network, not CBS Sports Network, the big gun, CBS. That will be an 8 o'clock game on Saturday night on CBS. So that is the big news of the week. My impressions of the league is we've had 24 games. We've had 21 of the 24 be close and competitive. And this is still a fun league. This is an awesome league. And pretty much every team, with the exception of Memphis, is in it for a playoff spot. And again, we got some big games this week. Orlando, Atlanta will be the first game on TNT. Salt Lake at San Antonio, San Diego, Arizona, and Birmingham at Memphis. All right, everyone, let me know what you think. Enjoy the football games. I'll give my picks tomorrow. We'll talk to you later.